Hello everyone, welcome to episode 1 of our Summer Spotlight series. Today, we are so excited to be joined by Viet Cuong, who is currently at KSU. He's going to give us a brief background on who he is, where he came from, and how he got here in Georgia.
Yes.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
So I'm Viet. I'm a composer. Also was teaching this year at KSU, and I understand you're all alums.
Yes.
We are.
Great.
Shout out to all the grads, by the
I know.
way.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So I grew up here in Marietta, right around 15 minutes from where we currently are right now.
Nice.
I was born in California, but I moved to, my family moved to Georgia when I was I'm gonna say six or seven.
Oh, wow.
So, for all intents and purposes, I am from Georgia. And I started on piano when I was really young, 5 or 6. But I mean, what 5 or 6 year old likes practicing piano? So,
it wasn't me.
yeah,
Right.
and I was in Suzuki, which was really regimented,
Wow. Yeah.
and I really didn't like it. I feel like at baseline, a 5 or 6 year old wouldn't like piano, but when doing Suzuki, where you couldn't play them, I couldn't play the music I wanted to play, which was basically Disney tunes.
Yes.
And so, I quit shortly after starting, and my mom didn't really know anything about music. She just no one in my family is a musician.
Right. Wow.
To this day, other than me. So I, kind of stopped that, and by the time I got to middle school, though, right before middle school, I somehow had another interest in piano. I think because I was a little bit older, and we were able to find a teacher who I like Jennings Music, which is
wow.
not far from here. And she wasn't a Suzuki teacher, so she let me play what I wanted to play.
That's good.
And so I kind of picked it back up again, and I miraculously remembered how to read music. Because I don't really have many memories of being a 5-year-old or 6-year-old.
Right.
I remembered how to read treble clef, and it came back really quickly.
I still
don't know how to do that.
Some days.
Yeah. So after that, I was more into practicing, but still didn't love it.
Yeah.
And I always joke that I would trick my mom into thinking I was practicing by making up my own music. So I would
I like
improvise these really simple improvisations in A minor, A natural minor, and but I never wrote them down. But it was just a fun thing for me to do instead of practicing.
What inspired some of that improv? That's so interesting.
I don't know. I just liked doing it. I think it was partly a way to my mom was you need to practice for 30 minutes, and then I would go and do that.
I'm about to play
And I guess I feel like I credit it to Disney, my love of music from a young age. I would just watch Little Mermaid or Beauty and the Beast over and over.
Those are some good
they have some good scores.
Really good
Scores,
yeah. Really good scores.
Alan Menken and
Yes.
Howard Ashman, just really amazing songs. And I just I don't know. I think I remember my mom has this big note stack paper from when I was really little. I think I wrote I wrote some notes that were about a mermaid or something. I really don't know where exactly that desire to improvise came from, but it was there. And when I got to middle school, I went to I spent a year at Simpson Middle School around here in 6th grade, and I joined band.
Yes.
And it was interesting because I don't know if I was exactly really drawn to joining band, but it's just everyone did it in 6th grade, whether or not they ended up sticking with it, but it just seemed like something everyone did.
I did it to get out of gym. I'll be real
Oh my
honest.
gosh.
Well,
And
I
that's
had to
why
do
I'm here
both.
today.
Is that a good substitution for that?
It is.
Yeah.
You move your fingers.
Well, marching band is exercise.
Oh,
That is
that's
true.
That's
Uh,
right.
it's
It's
very
it's
true.
a way to get good tan. That's the only reason I do
That's
band
true.
camps.
Mhm.
I get the tan.
So what instrument did you play?
It
Or
was percussion because
Ah,
you know, as
makes
every
sense.
every band director is
Yeah.
like, who here plays piano? And then you know, they're like, here play percussion. So, like, I was a percussionist,
Mhm.
and I still kept the piano lesson thing
Mhm.
going too. But yeah, just I enjoyed that. But
Yeah.
Simpson, like Mike Lynch was one of the band directors, and he kind of like would have the percussionist off in
Mhm.
percussion land every
Yeah.
day instead of just like
Right.
in the back,
Yep.
which was good in some ways because like obviously you get to learn percussion from like
Right.
a percussionist.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
but then in 7th grade my family moved to a different house that was in the Mabry school district, which was nearby.
Maybe, yeah.
Yep.
But they didn't have like a percussion like
Class.
assistant band director.
Gotcha.
Right.
So it was like, you know, I was in the back with all the other percussionists at
Yeah.
Mabry, and I remember though in 6th grade at Simpson, I really loved like sitting or not like I loved like playing in the back with the band
Mm-hmm.
because we only do that for like concerts. But
Right,
I loved
right.
it.
Yeah.
And so when we got to Mabry, I just really enjoyed being like with the band every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was really there that I started to think like, or to be really interested in maybe composing for a band, because I love listening to it, hearing it, and also you're a percussionist, count a lot of rests.
just
right?
sit-
So, right,
You
you
just
have-
sit back
right, you're
there.
just sitting there.
Right. So I was counting so many rests, and when I wasn't like goofing off, I was
You were
like listening,
Yeah.
and I would listen to, you know, I remember it was Laura Estes, with the band director in 7th grade. Like she would be like, "Oh, can I hear like clarinets and flutes?"
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
I would start to like learn how composers
Yeah.
orchestrated for
Yep.
band.
Got you.
And I remember in 7th or 8th grade last year had a like basically like a recruitment band camp one
Mhm.
weekend.
Mhm.
You know, where you go and like or basically all the feeder middle
Yep.
schools go and you know play some pieces.
Do the thing.
Yeah.
Right.
And I remember one of the assistants at Laster at the time, Catherine Sinan Bushman, like had a finale notepad seminar where she was just like, oh, like everyone's tired of playing right now, so we'll just like have a little session on this notation software,
Mhm.
which at the time was like the free notation software.
Mhm.
Nowadays we have much more sophisticated like MuseScore
You
and
score, yeah.
Noteflight,
Yeah.
but back then that was like finale notepad was like the free one you could get.
Mhm.
And so I remember being like, this is what I need, because I have like these like piano improvisations in my
Uh-huh.
head. And I remember I also at the time loved Pachelbel's Canon.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was the most beautiful piece of music ever. I mean, I remember I had the CD I got like from like a Borders that was
Oh
like
wow.
Pachelbel on the beach. And I thought it was like the most beautiful music I'd ever heard in my life. And
Wow.
so I remember I would like, the way I taught myself music theory was like, basically, I would play the bass line of Pachelbel's Canon and improvise my own like melodies over it.
Yep. Definitely was not me.
I was gonna
Wait,
say,
what
like,
is the age of
I don't
middle
know what I was
schoolers
doing
again?
in 7th grade, like 11,
I-
12, 13, is that
I was
right?
like trying to make it as a basketball star and a trumpet player at the same. I had a mean
One of
hook
those
shot
things
and I,
worked
Right.
out,
I gave
kind
some
of.
good
At
elbows.
least
so.
one thing came
One,
out.
yeah,
Good.
one.
Well, I knew basketball was never gonna be my thing, you know.
Yeah.
So-
I
Backboard,
still don't like
backboard
music
every
theory
time.
to this day, so that just like the whole improv. I'm like,
well, it was
It's smart.
Like, I remember I would like, my dad would drive me to school,
Mhm.
and I remember like in the mornings like waiting for him to get ready and take me to school. I would like just sit at the piano and like play
Oh my
the
gosh.
Yeah.
talk about Canada, and like I remember like just because I never had any music theory training until like AP music theory senior year of high school.
Mhm.
Same, yep.
And but I remember like being like, oh, if the first note's a D, if I play a D over that, it sounds, I didn't know what the word was, but consonant, it sounds nice.
Uh-huh.
If I play an F sharp over it, like a major 10th, like, oh, that sounds nice too, but if I play an E, it doesn't sound quite right. It like needs to go to either a D or an F. So like those were just like kind of
Okay.
intuitive things.
like problem solving.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
And just like learning, like I remember learning like piano arpeggios and later learning like those sound pretty and those are chords. Like later on I would learn that was a major triad.
Right.
Yep.
But at the time I didn't know what that was.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, but so throughout in middle school, I started like be interested in composing, and I loved band music. I was such a nerd. I would go on like JW Pepper and look at new releases.
I did that. I
Yeah.
definitely did
Yeah.
that in middle and high school. And so, did you continue playing percussion through the rest of high school?
Yeah.
Did you do marching band?
I did.
Ooh.
So
How was that?
it was great. I mean, I was usually, because I had the piano background, they always threw the mallet parts
The
at me.
mallet part, yes.
So when I got to high school, I was like, well, I'll just be in pit because like I'm better at playing mallets than snare.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was never gonna be on snare line my freshman year anyway, but like I just joined pit, and it was really fun. Like a lot of my friends at the time also joined pit that year. Like one of my best friends, Kevin, was in pit with me like to this day, and still one of my best friend.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so I was in pit that year, and that year, I mean, like Lassiter at the time was like an amazing
Very,
program.
yes.
And it's like still a great program, but
Yes.
back then it was just like they had just like won the Grand Nationals.
Yes,
and
the
it
BOA
was-
and everything, yeah.
Yeah, and so my freshman year we went to, it was called Coast to Coast in 37 Days. We went to both the Macy's and Rose Bowl parades in the same year, which was really incredible.
That
I
was
remember
fun
hearing
and
about this.
tiring.
Yeah.
What a great freshman year, right? I think if
Yeah.
I was a senior, I would have been like, by the time the Rose Bowl came around, I'd been like,
I'm done. I'm done. I'm
Give
ready
me
to
home,
go.
give me a
yeah.
bed.
I'm done.
because
I feel that I would have.
Yeah.
Personally, I would be
Ready
like,
for
I'm ready to
bed.
go.
But as a freshman, you
Yeah.
didn't know. It was
Like,
just
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, but the thing was, pit, like when you play in a parade, like our options were basically, you could audition to be on the snare line, which I was like, that's not gonna work for me because I'm not a great, like, you know, I didn't have chops quite yet. And you could do cymbals, and I was like, that doesn't sound fun. Like doing, like, no offense to people who play cymbals, but just like marching in a parade with like heavy cymbals
Yes.
for
Yeah.
5 miles.
Didn't
And
sound-
it's like also like the sound of cymbals for like
It's
that
cold
long.
in one place and hot
Hot.
in another. Yikes.
Yeah. So I was like, I don't want to do that. And then the last option was sleigh bells,
Oh.
which was what most people in the pit did, but it was just like the idea of doing that for like 5 miles, you know, which just wasn't like appealing to me either.
Yeah.
So I asked my mom if she could buy me like a plastic Bundy clarinet on eBay.
Oh.
It was like $75.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. And
I bet you
remember-
see a lot of those as a band director.
Oh, I
Coming
see
in.
them
Yeah.
a lot. Yes.
Yeah, and at least I didn't. My mom didn't fall for like the plastic clarinet like made in China.
The min-
like,
the Mendini?
Mendini?
The wish.
I literally had a kid who just came with the Mendini. She's like, I got a new clarinet. Okay.
and they look pretty.
It
I'm
looks
sure,
great.
But, like,
The purple ones.
Yeah.
I feel like
Okay.
these days they might be better quality, but back in like 2003,
Yeah.
4, like we
Yeah.
probably weren't very
Yeah.
good back then. So I got that, and I went to the Classic Winds music store and bought like the Essential Elements book,
Yes.
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 I
Essential
love those
elements.
books.
and basically taught myself clarinet and learned like all of the parade tunes on it. And then I remember playing for my band director to make so he could like make sure that I
Yeah.
could actually play it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And yeah, so basically I was also a clarinetist in high school because a lot of my best friends played clarinet, and I would just kind of play it for fun. And then by the end of like my high school career, I guess,
Yeah.
because I switched to clarinet.
Oh.
And I think I always joke that I got tired of moving equipment.
So he was like, here we go. Here
Yeah.
we
That's one way to fix it.
But
would've done
but throughout high school I was like in percussion ensemble. I was
Mhm.
like mostly a percussionist, but by
Yeah.
the end I kind of switched to clarinet.
So now that I know this story, like some of your music, it definitely has those influences in them.
Yeah.
One of my favorite pieces of yours is Renewal, and I was like, where did this concept come from? And I'm like, interesting, but now knowing your percussion background and everything like that, I'm like, it makes sense. It makes sense.
Even though I like kind of stopped playing percussion, I still love
Yeah,
it.
still, yeah.
Just
When's the last
so
time you
fun.
picked it up? Picked up some percussion?
Well, like I recently was in Nashville at Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
Doing a recording session, and they had all the percussion equipment there, and I just like picked up like the teacher Jive was like, thing. And I was like,
Let's see if I
I could
remember my
still-
skill.
Right,
Let's go real
let's
quick.
see if I remember real quick.
Yeah.
Boom.
could not really play anything fast or anything. I don't know how to like get around, but yeah.
Wow.
I'm at Western Michigan University, so we played Bullseye. We
Yeah,
actually had you
yeah.
in for an interview, and we were listening to all these pieces this past couple of days, and I'm like, there's just something like fresh and new and like hip about all your music, and I really like appreciate it. Bullseye is very difficult, especially
You played trumpet, right?
I did, and it gave me a lot of headaches, especially with all these like COVID-19 procedures, because that little C you wrote in the beginning part. Some days it came out just air. Some days it was way too loud.
C, I need to ask someone about that C.
It's it just sometimes it just don't come out. Sometimes
Yeah.
it just,
Yeah.
and then they go to the B after, and that B was sharp, but it was.
Right.
I call it brilliant.
Oh, there we go. There
Better
we go.
that than flat, right?
Right.
I just call that sitting in the pitch.
Yeah.
There we go. There we go. Send it on. Send it on. And I really think that your music, yes, it has this fresh thing, and people love playing music. How does it feel that your music is everywhere now? Like, everyone is playing it now. Like, UT, University of North Texas, Vanderbilt, Western Michigan, Kennesaw,
Yeah.
everywhere. I feel like if I look at a program, I'm going to see a work by you. How does that feel?
It's incredible. I mean, I think back to when I was like, 14 or 15 when I
Mhm.
first started to really like in earnest try to compose.
Yeah.
Like, it's really bad music, but like, I remember like my second year of high school, our percussion ensemble went to Midwest,
Yes.
and that was an amazing experience. In many ways, even though I had like food poisoning, I remember, and I was like
Oh gosh.
dragging these
I
marimbas
did.
upstairs.
I had a sickness at Midwest last year.
Mm.
I saw you and I wanted to say hello.
Oh, you should
But
have.
I was sick.
Oh, yeah. Well, I understand that struggle.
Yeah, I was sick.
Yeah, but back then it was at the Hilton Hotel, but like
Mhm.
it's a very similar experience.
Yeah.
And I remember as a student, like you get that really heavy ass like program book.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Like I remember as like a 13 or 14-year-old, however old it was, like flipping through the pages of that and being
Mhm.
like,
Oh my gosh.
So many
So
like,
overwhelmed.
wouldn't it be amazing to like have a piece played here one day? And now to like have pieces played at Midwest
Mhm.
by groups like you mentioned,
Mhm.
and like
CBDNA.
I just-
all
Yeah.
that, yeah.
I like all I can say is it just feels really incredible, but also just like man, like my 14-year-old self would just
Yeah.
be like wouldn't believe it.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow.
And I remember like trying to find like I remember I like bought like an American Elegy, like a score, like Frank Kelly's
Frank
score.
Kelly's
Ah,
piece.
yeah.
And I remember like trying to find him to get an autograph, and I
Yes.
couldn't. But now, like
Pretty sure you and Frank text.
yeah, well, like he emailed me, like
Yes.
like for him to like remember who I am, even is so
Wow.
cool.
Yeah.
And to think also that like some younger students might think of me in the same way that
They
I thought
do,
of Frank
they
Kelly.
do.
Yes.
I
Yes.
don't know if that's true. But
No,
Well,
to
I
think
mean-
that that's a possibility or could one day be a possibility is
Yeah.
really cool.
I remember when we like lined you up for the series, and I was just like, I don't know how I would feel. Like I feel nervous just playing in front of people, but having music that other people play at any time in the world that you possibly don't even know sometimes.
Yes.
That would just give me another level of anxiety. That I know I wrote it, and it's obviously people liking it is good, but I'll be like, oh my god, they
Yeah.
played it again.
Yeah,
Very.
that is a weird experience. And I remember like when I had my first wind ensemble piece played in college,
Mhm.
my first real one. It was just really nerve-wracking because it's like your colleagues and you know them, and like
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
you know that like there's never any piece of music that everyone will love,
Mhm.
Right,
right?
for
But
sure.
you just hope that like most people have a good experience with it.
Yes.
Mhm.
And it still doesn't. That feeling doesn't go away. Like being kind of anxious about
Yeah.
every time you send off a piece, like hope they like it. Or
Yeah.
So when it comes to composition, this is something I always ask composers because it's so interesting to me. Like, how, when you're going through the process, do you think about creating new, fresh music without trying to go, I don't know, like to the super far right, to the super far left? Like, where do you find yourself within the process of like creation?
That's a good question because I think it's kind of like futile to try to like to write music to please people
Mhm.
because like the audience will always be different
Right.
Mhm.
depending on what kind of audience it is or
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
it's being played or what kind of ensemble it is. So ultimately you have to like write music that will be satisfying for a performer in some way, and that is a little bit, you can control that a little bit more
Right.
because
Yes.
there are things that are standardized about playing the flute or trumpet.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Like, I know that writing, like, you know, a pianissimo super high D on the flute is not going to be an enjoyable experience.
No.
Well, it's like,
Or
no.
just not going to happen.
Yeah.
at all.
Or not possible. Exactly.
I don't play piano.
Yeah.
Hate to break that to all the composers out there.
Right. And so, like, that stuff you can have a little bit more, like, of a gauge on, like, what will be perceived or accepted well.
Right.
But other than that, it's like you just have to like write music that you find satisfying
Yes.
and that you believe in, because you can tell when a composer is being honest,
Yes.
or
Yes.
when you feel like they're phoning it in, or when they're
Yes.
like trying to
Yep.
pander.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially with band music, I think a lot of
Oh
composers,
my
Especially with
That's a whole
music.
can of worms.
Yeah. Yeah.
and there are different reasons for that. I think, you know, especially with like educational music, there are so many limitations to where sometimes the composer feels like they can't write what they want to write.
Right. Oh my gosh, what was the thing we were just talking about the other day with the was it Tulsa Symphony? The composer.
Was the composer.
Yeah, when he wanted to write, I wish I had it up in my memory, but just the idea of censorship with music nowadays
Right.
is just, I don't know, it's crazy how it's still happening.
Right.
And we know why it's still happening.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The whole thing that happened with the Detroit Symphony and that letter they got from one of their
Right. Yeah.
patrons
Yeah.
and everything.
True.
Yeah. I mean, so for you, and like all of us in some sense are minorities. So for you, how do you feel like, because, you know, you're in this field that is, I mean, our field in general is just very Eurocentric, it's white male dominated, it's just the truth of the matter. So for you, how does it feel to see yourself like integrated now within our musical canon?
It's like, what's the right word for this? It's strange sometimes, and I think that a lot of people, whether or not they realize it or not, when they see my name on a program, they'll be like, oh, that sounds different than what I've heard before. And they'll think, oh, it sounds like maybe an Asian name. And then they have this preconceived notion of what my
Of
music
what your music's in.
will sound like. And but I think oftentimes people are surprised. They're like, oh, your music sounds so American or whatever. It's like, but I am an American.
Yeah.
Right,
like,
you are.
Like, it's happened to me.
You're a Georgian.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Like, I grew up in Georgia playing a marching band.
Right.
I was at
Real
every Friday
Southern.
night.
Real
Real
Southern.
Southern.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And every Friday night football game, like,
Yeah.
and that's all I know.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't an immigrant. I wasn't born in Vietnam, didn't come here. So it's like this weird feeling that, you know, you feel like people here assume you're not American. But then if I were to go to Vietnam, I think everyone there would assume I was not from there.
Yeah,
Right.
got you. I
And-
understand.
It's
Wow.
like this identity where you kind of feel like, you know, where do I belong?
Right.
But the thing is, with music, and I always say this, is like music, like in band especially, like healed me as a kid. Because as a kid I felt like, you know, this area.
Right.
There aren't very many Vietnamese people, and even in the last year especially, there weren't even that many like Asian
Yeah.
Right.
students.
Yep,
So
yep, yep.
I felt so like alienated in so many ways, and music was a place where it was like kind of where you could be part of something and have like this greater good. Like we're
Yes.
all trying to make this marching show as great as possible. We're all trying to sound as good as we can at festival.
Yeah.
And it was where like what I looked like didn't
Yeah.
matter.
Did
Yeah.
Yep.
And that was so beautiful to me.
Yeah.
And also like with the marching band uniform, it's like you can kind of like, it was like where I felt like I belonged somewhere
Yeah.
and I had pride in it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I don't
yes.
think I'd ever been proud of something
Yeah.
in my life before a band,
Wow.
you know?
I'm so glad that you said that because as a teacher, we're, you know, in that recruiting process for, you know, upcoming students. And that's what I always say is you're going to be a part of a family. This is bigger
Yeah.
than just you. You're going to find your niche. And so I'm so glad that you said that because it is. I know for me, being in band really taught me life lessons. Like
Yeah.
some of the lessons that I still hold today, I learned in band. And so I know that is a story for everybody. So, and I'm glad you found your way.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. And I'm glad you do too.
Yeah.
And I think also in band, at least compared to other areas of the classical music world, there's more diversity in leadership.
Yeah.
like my band director is legendary,
Oh, yes.
Alfred Watkins.
Of course.
Oh, yes.
And
Sir Alfred Watkins.
if you don't know him, he's an African American musician.
Yes.
And
Built Lassiter.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
and kind of to like see a person of color
Mm-hmm.
at the helm of
Mhm.
such a legendary program.
Yes.
It really sends a message to the community and also the students. Like
Right.
Mm-hmm.
you can do it,
Yeah,
even
yes.
if you're not, you know, a white or straight.
Yes.
You can,
Yes.
you can find your way and you can make things happen if you know, if you have the guts. and
Yeah.
nerve.
I agree.
I know that's something like we all three are like really like in our own ways, like trying to like either create music, like commission works, program works that like show what is in the classroom at that
Right.
time, not just what has always been done.
Right.
Yes.
And just like show like what we like surround ourselves with and what we're moving forward. Because if we keep bogging ourselves down with the war horses, which they have a place in our repertoire,
Right.
yes,
We don't have to get rid of them. but-
exactly.
Right.
But we have to like, I think we have to play music that represents our classrooms,
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
our community, and our like what we're about,
Right.
not
Yeah.
what we were about.
Yeah.
And that's the only way music's gonna like keep going forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a self-perpetuating thing where, like, you know, if like if a young student wants to say
Mm-hmm.
be a band director and the only people they know who are band directors are like what has always been,
Right.
then
Yep.
it's like it does take like someone with like the nerve to be like, I'm gonna do it anyway.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Those
Oh,
are
yeah.
kind of like the pioneers, like
Yes.
Alfred Watkins or something.
Yes.
But a lot of students aren't that way.
No.
Mhm.
And you
Nope.
want to inspire everyone in the
Mhm.
classroom. And
Yeah.
you know, like I think just well, there's like a story where I was like at a high school in Texas,
Mhm.
working with a high school, and I remember like noticing a lot of Asian students in this
Mhm.
band program,
Mm-hmm.
which I wasn't expecting really.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, I did the clinic and it wasn't really something we talked about, but
Yeah.
afterwards, like a number of them came up to me and like asked like questions that were kind of like unique to the Asian American experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
And about like in terms of being an artist and like
Mm-hmm.
how they convince their parents,
Yeah.
Right.
or there's like different experiences that like I hope that maybe like the conversation I had with them like
Mhm.
or at least for a couple minutes they had like a safe space to like talk
Yeah.
to someone.
Absolutely.
I can say from experiences meeting some of these pioneers within our field. Like I remember we played I think it was Muslanka 10.
Yep.
Like it was our junior year at KSU, and it was the Southeast premiere, I want to say, and Alfred Watkins was there. And I remember like afterwards, it felt so good. Like that piece in general was just amazing, and everything that it meant to the composer after his passing and everything, and his son was crazy. But afterwards, I remember Alfred coming like back, and he found me, and he was like, "Young lady, what is your name?" And we just had this whole conversation, and for me, that was everything. Having someone who's been in the field that long and to recognize like what I'm doing, like that's what propels me forward. Because I want to see them seeing more of us out doing what they paved the way for.
Mhm.
So I know those conversations are so important. And I love every opportunity that I get to go into schools exactly and like talk to these students and show them, hey, I'm doing it, you can do it too.
Absolutely.
And with kids, it's like we know that they're very much like they look at something and go, that is something now, like it's in their brain. They remember
Yep.
things a lot. So
Yes.
them seeing, I saw, a black flute player like who does this professionally, they go, that sticks there,
Yes, yeah.
And so representation matters. That's like a
Yes.
huge thing. So and you are a huge part of this conversation now, with all your works and everything that you do. And it's amazing to see. I don't know.
No, thank you.
Absolutely.
I think it's like just I'll tell a story like where I had a premiere
Mm-hmm.
at a school in the Midwest, and I remember I like went up and spoke about my piece, and I just told them a little bit about myself,
Mhm.
and also like my bio is in the program note and everything. And I remember like an audience member liked the piece and came up and spoke to me afterwards, and she was like, oh, like how much longer are you here for? And I remember saying like, oh, just till tomorrow, because I was like, after piece premiere,
Yeah.
what else
Yeah.
are you
Yeah.
doing?
Of course.
I
Of course.
was like, I'm gonna go home tomorrow, and she's like, oh, you came here just for this? And it's like, yeah, I mean, it's like Philly's an hour plane ride away.
Yeah.
And then she's like, oh, I'm so sorry, I thought that you like
Yep.
we're going back to Asia or something.
Oh.
And it was like an honest mistake.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like because she doesn't really meet composers
Yes.
named Viet Cuong much.
Yes.
And like at the end of the day, like I view those things as like, well, she'll never like make that mistake again.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And her kind of worldview is probably changed by that experience.
Those
to like,
teaching moments.
yeah, to and like I wasn't mad. It was
Mhm.
just like, you know, part of my mission as a
Mhm.
composer
Right.
is to show that an American composer
Yes.
can look like me and can be named
Yes.
Viet Cuong
Yes.
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 and can write whatever music they want.
Yes. you
Any
can.
of it, because
Yes.
that's the beauty of it. Is like being an artist is you can
Yeah.
make whatever career you want.
Absolutely. So, one of the last questions I have to ask: are you going to be writing for a Disney film? Because that is
would
like
be
your.
so
I
insane.
mean,
that
I
would
would
be
love
so
that.
amazing.
That would be so insane.
I don't know people at Disney, but I'll find
Disney,
people and be like,
Disney, hello.
Yeah.
I
See,
know,
we got
Disney's
people out
like-
here.
Seeing how like crazy Soul was and the
Yeah.
That was
impact
a
Soul
wonderful
had,
movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I just want to see them do more things like that, you know. And I feel like we were just talking about this on the way over here, actually, how film score, especially at Disney, just it's insane, like how beautiful
Disney
and
films are
just
beautiful.
how intricate they get, and
Mhm.
yeah, I love it. That would be amazing.
Oh, I mean, I would love to. I just like, I feel like as a composer, I just want to keep doing more and more things I haven't done.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mhm.
it's how you stay like creative and
Right.
excited to
Yes.
write. So I would love that, but I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see, we'll see. Well, it was a pleasure talking with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for, just saying yes. We're literally in your backyard. Like, this is not our normal Zoom setup. So thank you for inviting us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course,
and
of
I'm
course.
excited to see like all the other guests that you have.
Oh, absolutely. And we're excited to see everything that you have to come in the future. We're going to be following
Oh,
you
thanks.
every step of the way.
Thank you.
And so, can you tell our audience before we leave how they can find you, find your music, everything like that? It should be very easy search, y'all.
Yeah, so my website is vietcuongmusic.com. My Instagram is Viet Cuong Music. Same as my Twitter, Viet Cuong Music, and Facebook, I'm just facebook.com/Viet Cuong.
Perfect.
Nice.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yay.